Hey everyone, my name is Joe Bartle. I'm going over the 3 players I love and hate entering Week 15. Let's start out first with Jared Goff. Everyone's going to want to talk about what Matthew Stafford and the Rams did against the Bills last week, and that 1-for-1, that should just automatically translate over to Jared Goff and Lions. And why not? Goff has been fantastic. He's been throwing touchdowns. The middle of the field's been wide open because they go into my Packers defense. Oh, wait, probably shouldn't be saying that. But either way, Jared Goff has been really good. And the passing attack, more importantly, has been fantastic. The difference is Matthew Stafford has a 2-game funnel that is one of the most, if not the most, elite in the NFL with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I don't think the Lions can 1-for-1 replicate the way Matthew Stafford diced up that defense. And more importantly, I don't think the Lions want to. We know Sonic and Knuckles, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs are a critical factor of that offense, and then it sets up the play action. They fundamentally have a different offensive scheme than what the Rams want to do on a week-in, week-out basis. It's also a bit of a letdown game for the Lions, who won an emotional contest over the Packers, and all the different defensive injuries I think will add up over time. Now, that might actually benefit Jared Goff, make him have to pass more, make that offense have to be more involved, but this feels far closer to the games of the beginning of the season where the Lions are really getting Jared Goff going, not quite asking him to do so much in the passing attack, and I think he's more in the 2 touchdowns but under 250-yard range. That's fine. That's quarterback 1 numbers, but it isn't Matthew Stafford going insane last week that I think everyone's sort of expecting. I'd rather play Brock Purdy. I'd rather play Tua. I'd rather play Baker Mayfield over Goff this week. And again, playoffs, we're saying theoretically 6 quarterbacks that are out there left. Goff might be outside that range for me. Sticking in the sub-fringe hate section, it's Evan Engram. And with Mac Jones now the quarterback for the Jaguars rest of season, it's fine. But you're not really looking for fine at tight end anymore. At least I don't think you need to. Evan Engram has been a PPR machine in the same way that Jason Witten was towards the end of his career for the Cowboys. Yeah, he's going to get 6 targets for 40 yards, but not much else. In fact, Evan Engram has went over 50 receiving yards once this entire season back in week 6. And that's with Lawrence in times as the quarterback. Now, Mac Jones. I would rather play Sam Laporta. I'd rather play TJ Hawkinson. I would rather play Juwan Johnson in the event that Chris Olave and Bub Means are out. We don't know yet the stats for either of those Saints receivers, but if it's just Juwan Johnson, that's probably a better play and a guy that's going to get just as much volume with a touchdown upside for the Saints than whatever Evan Engram is doing. 8 PPR points is fine, but I want to get a bit more of a ceiling. And I think there's a lot of other folks out there right now that you're at least debating with Evan Engram. So he's tight end 10-ish, but no more. Finally, the last person on my hate list this week is Marvin Harrison. And I want to be clear, you're going to hear this a lot throughout the week. If you're asking start-sit questions, most fantasy experts, whoever you like, are going to end up saying, play your studs. That concept is totally fine. For me, and I answer this all the time when I'm doing my national radio hits, SiriusXM Radio, the podcast that we're doing. When I say play your studs, it's because in my situation, I'm going to get way more pissed off if I play Adam Thielen as my starter over AJ Brown, and AJ Brown goes for 25 on my bench. It's a bad example. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. We know AJ Brown's gonna get the ball, but you know what I mean. Your starting guy, the guy that's been in your lineup all season long, that is your stud that you want to play. I will get upset if I misplay it, thinking even if it's the right call, that I'm not playing my stud and he's on the bench. That does not apply to Marvin Harrison. At this point, Marvin Harrison is not a stud. You might have drafted him as if he's going to be, but the rookie just isn't going to get there. By the end of the season, he might get over 1,000 receiving yards. Fine. He might be the number 1 receiver for the Cardinals. Rest of season box score. Fine. But Marvin Harrison is by far not a top 36 player where he's being drafted this season. And the philosophy of player studs can't apply when he is no longer a stud. Name value does not matter in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. So Marvin Harrison is completely out of that realm for me. It's the same sort of concept for Jaden Reed, for example, who got 0 points last week. You might have a floor that's safe for Marvin Harrison. There might be a ceiling that's awesome for Jaden Reed, but I want consistency out of my guys in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. And Marvin Harrison's going against one of the better cornerbacks, provided he's healthy, in the league, in Christian Gonzalez against the Patriots this week. There is no scenario, at least I don't know of, that I'm going to be playing Marvin Harrison this week. The Jerry Jeudy's, Elijah Moore's, Demario Douglas's. I want somebody else in my lineup this week over Marvin Harrison. It's not quite the level of Kyle Pitts from last week's video where I'm just done completely dropping this player altogether, but Marvin Harrison should not be in your lineup this week at all. A reminder to folks, we got a lot of different content on the site right now for RotoWire Fantasy Football, the YouTube channel as well too. If you could follow this, if you could follow the RotoWire Football channel, it'd be awesome, at least fantasy-wise. Subscribing to these videos would be great too for us out there. We're nearing the end of the season, but that's not a means to say you're out. In fact, lots of other fantasy playoff content. Let's go over to the 3 players I love for this week and start first with Jameis Winston. It's not for the faint of heart. I completely understand the idea of playing Jameis Winston. This version of Jameis Winston, or really the Buccaneers one from the 30-30 year, is not a great idea. Right? Like, it's the week of the fantasy playoffs for a lot of folks, and Winston, who is a guaranteed turnover machine, is going to be in your starting lineup against the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense has not been very good, and especially against the boundary receivers like Jerry Judy, and I think in this case, Cedric Tillman too, who I'm hoping will be back after a 3-game absence due to the concussion. I like Jameis Winston from a volume part of things. I think he's right around quarterback 12, and in deeper formats where you're able to get him anywhere, he's produced 18 or more fantasy points. He's produced 19 or more fantasy points in 5 of the past 6 weeks, and the one he didn't was the semi-blizzard on a short week against the Steelers, in which he still scored close to 18. Like, Winston, by default, is sort of the guaranteed projection total that you want to have, and there's still a higher ceiling to him in any scenario. If the Browns get ahead, it's because Winston threw a bunch of touchdowns. And if the Browns are trailing, well, it's because he threw some touchdowns to the other team and will then need to make it back up, like we saw Monday night against the Broncos. I'm playing Jameis Winston over Sam Darnold. I'm playing over Matthew Stafford. I'm playing over Anthony Richardson, Justin Herbert, maybe even Kyler Murray as well, too. I know Murray's rushing total gives you a floor too, but Winston, to me this week, is right there amongst the other quarterbacks that are in quarterback one conversation. Let's go over to Rico Dowdle. Now, last week we talked about Chase Brown. I would imagine in most formats you're playing Chase Brown, but I just want to emphasize to folks, Rico Dowdle is effectively a top 10 running back play this week. There's no more Ezekiel Elliott threat. It's just a single running back offense going against the league's worst fantasy defense against opposing running backs in the Carolina Panthers. Dowdle's gotten over 100 or close to 100 total yards in the past 3 games and has looked really good. I think Cooper Rush maintains a certain level of consistency offensively that you can't just say, all right, I'm going to dial the box up and stop Rico Dowdle, which is a crazy sentence to say in the year 2024. But maybe the Panthers could choose to do that against a lesser quarterback. Cooper Rush is not that. CeeDee Lamb should be able to play. There's too many passing weapons that the Panthers just can't solely focus on stopping the run. Rico Dowdle is right there with the volume that he's getting, with the opportunity against this defense. And I think I'm playing over like James Cook. I'm going to play him over Jonathan Taylor. I'm playing him over Isaiah Pacheco. I might play him over Devon Achane as well, too. And ideally, you could just play both. Let's have Achane and Dowdle in my lineup in some way. But I'm just reminding folks, best matchup possible, all the workload out there, and there's probably points on both sides. Rico Dowdle is literally a top 10 running back this week. Finally, if I like Jameis Winston, let's fire it all the way up. I like Jerry Judy as a play as well this week. You might not realize it, and there's enough other receivers out there that you can kind of get the, oh, would I play this guy or that guy scenario? Jerry Judy needs to be this guy in this equation. He's quietly averaging over 20 fantasy points over the past 6 weeks. Yes, that's part of that Broncos game where he went nuclear, but this isn't the Jerry Judy that we saw earlier this season with Deshaun Watson. Winston's passing the ball a lot. He doesn't care if he throws to the other team. He's still passing it plenty. It feels like vintage Buccaneers, Jameis Winston, for better or for worse. And we know that benefits the passing group. So whether it be Cedric Tillman, whether it be Jerry Judy, the Chiefs are one of the worst teams against tight ends, at least fantasy-wise. So David Njoku, I think, is a top 4 or 5 play this week. Jerry Judy is comfortably wide receiver 2 territory. I'm playing him over Jaden Reed. I'm playing him over Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, even Jordan Addison, who had a great game a couple weeks ago against the Bears, went nuclear against the Falcons last week too. It doesn't matter. Judy is so involved in that offense, and the passing attack is going to happen so often that he effectively needs to be a must play in your fantasy playoffs.